It's Cougar Sports Saturday.
Bear inside the 5. Bear into the end zone. It's a touchdown.
Cougar Sports Saturday, a presentation of KSL Sports.
Rob Wright the third just won it for BYU.
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Nate Slack, on your legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Good afternoon, Cougar Nation. Welcome on into Cougar Sports Saturday. Man, it was a fun week, Mitch. I had a great time with my family this week. A little bit rainy, but it's the summer is winding down. School is now back in session, and football is right around the corner. We've made it to the final Saturday without college football for the rest of the calendar year, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
Well said, Nate. Next week at this time, we will have not only college football, we'll have Big 12 football with TCU and North Carolina in action, and every Saturday, of course, we will be with you every step of the way talking Cougar football. 2 weeks from today, BYU football kicks off the 2026 season against Utah Tech, and all of the action can be heard right here on KSL News Radio. But to open up today's show, with fall camp winding down, we're going to actually start things off with some BYU basketball news as the long national nightmare appears to be over. BYU's got its center.
The biggest story that gets to the heart of BYU fans. It's the Cougar Pulse.
It was a long, windy road, Cougar Nation. BYU's got some bigs finally on this 2026-2027 roster, and Jaxon Kohler is committed to the BYU basketball program. What a get for Kevin Young and BYU basketball. Now, Kevin Young told me in May at the Big 12 spring meetings that he wanted to wait till the bitter end. And I think he was implying at that time in May, he was talking about international guys because a lot of international guys wanted to get into college basketball. A lot of players want to stay in college basketball these days. A couple years ago, like 10 or so years ago, it was always, Eric Mika's and Elijah Bryant's. They're leaving for international basketball. Even Yoli Childs for a brief moment left BYU basketball. But guys want to be in college basketball now. And that move was brilliant by Kevin Young because then the 5-5 became a thing for some guys because they got temporary restraining orders. And one of those guys is Jaxon Kohler, who got an injunction in the state of California that grants him the ability to take advantage of the NCAA's 5-5 rule. He was a class of 2022 high school recruit. He's now going to be playing for BYU this year. Your initial reaction to BYU landing Jaxon Kohler, who had interest from Kentucky and Louisville?
Yeah, it couldn't have been a better fit for BYU basketball. And it's so funny because when the season ended, I wanted the big guy who is 7 feet tall and 300 pounds to just push around guys in the paint. But that's not really the style of basketball that Kevin Young's offense plays. So I think Kohler is a fantastic fit. He's still a big body. He's 6'10", 245 pounds. He's going to be able to shoot the ball, though, too, and I think that's the big difference, is he's going to be able to space the floor a lot better than guys like Foose and Keba did. He was, I believe he was a 39% three-point shooter last season, and it wasn't like he was shooting a small amount either. I think he hit around 50 three-pointers. So it's a fantastic fit for BYU. It's also a fantastic fit for Kohler, and I feel like this is a spot where it's going to really allow him an opportunity to potentially play in the NBA next year. I think he picked up some good insight by playing in the summer league for the Jazz this season, where maybe he was going to be a G League guy most likely, but this gives him an opportunity to go back to college for another year, make some money, also improve his game, because I think when you go through the whole summer league concept and you're going through the grind of being coached by NFL or by NBA guys and you're playing with other NBA players, you start to really notice your strengths and weaknesses. And I think playing in BYU's system when there's so much of an NBA focus about getting players to the pros, he's going to really be able to improve his game, and I feel like that boosters BYU's recruiting efforts in the future as well.
I think he's primarily a 4 personally. I think he's at his best at the 4, but of course he can play the 5. He's a little bit of an old school skill set, but he has evolved over the course of his Michigan State career, and he became a standout player for Michigan State the past 4 years. It was a slow build. First 2 years really didn't play much. And then last season, he was an honorable mention All Big Ten guy, kind of a captain, heart and soul type player. And he was asked on the KSL Sports Zone with Scotty G and the coach. Coach Tim Lacombe landed this interview with Jaxon Kohler. Of course, Lacombe was a former BYU basketball assistant back in the day, and asked Kohler yesterday, why not go back to Michigan State for that 5th year?
I know that right now this is such a unique situation, and right now, I mean, his roster is full, and it's more than that because I know the younger guys on that team, Cam Warren, Jesse McCulloch, like I know those guys, and it's their time now. You know, they're gonna step up and they're gonna shine for Michigan State. And you know what? They're going through a process just like I went through. And I know that if I were in their shoes and, you know, someone kind of came back and, kind of interrupted my journey, things would have turned out differently. And I don't want to impact their journey anymore. I feel like my last year as a senior, I mentored them as best I could and, prepared them for what lies ahead. But now it's time for them to kind of take over and be the faces of Michigan State.
And BYU fans are excited that he took that approach, and he was referencing Tom Izzo, legendary head coach with the Spartans. He had a full roster, and Izzo has kind of made it clear he didn't want to boot guys that he had already made promises to. So that freed up Kohler to go elsewhere, and he lands at BYU, and he explained on our sibling station, the KSL Sports Zone, what the deciding factor was to pick BYU.
So the deciding factor with BYU was that they have NBA coaches and NBA staff, NBA experience. They had a perfect opening for a big man, and I felt like that it felt like it was just kind of meant to be. I mean, they play a lot of NBA offense, which is something that I need to, which something I was looking for, because going on to the next level, I need to make sure that I can fit into a NBA kind of offensive style of play. And Coach Young and his staff are not only great coaches and they have great NBA and basketball IQ, but they're great people too. And I feel like that being home is a big part of it. But I feel like the basketball fit was just the best out of any place.
I think he's a really well-spoken guy, and this is a guy who I feel like really would have helped BYU basketball last year too. And I think one thing that wasn't talked about enough last season is there was a lot of top-end talent on that roster, but there wasn't that like homegrown traditional BYU guy, and I feel like that was really lacking, especially after Dawson Baker went down with an injury, Richie Saunders went down with an injury. Once those two guys went down, there wasn't anybody who, I understand there's a lot of talent on the team. There was Rob Wright, there was AJ DiBonsa, but there still needs to be an aspect to BYU recruiting, especially where you have guys who understand BYU's mission. They want to play hard for BYU. They understand how the state works and the fan base and everything like that. And that's something that this year's team has. So I'm really excited about that because I know Kohler has been a Michigan State guy the last 4 seasons, but he's from American Fork. Like he understands the state, he understands BYU basketball, and I think pairing up him with Wallin, with Chandler, with Baker, I mean it's a totally different look than the team last year, and I think that makes a big difference because you're playing a lot more for the name on the front of the jersey than just the name on the back of the jersey.
And I think with Jaxon Kohler too, I think there was a comfort that you could go to, even though BYU, he hasn't been part of this program, he hasn't been playing in the Marriott Center, hasn't played for Kevin Young, but he's been in the area. He's been playing in Pro-Am, Powder League games in Orem. He's been around Utah County this summer since his time in the Summer League, whereas Kentucky, it's not only a leap of – because this recruitment was basically – he got granted the ability to go into the portal from the NCAA earlier this week, courtesy of a temporary restraining order in the state of California, because the NCAA was saying for these class of 2022 prospects, they would not be grandfathered in for the 5-and-5 rule. So he needed to get a legal injunction to allow him to go into the portal. And then once he gets into the portal, he knew he probably had to make this quick because, as we see sometimes in the courts, because the NCAA is appealing all of these cases, he had to make a quick action here. And so Kentucky was on the table, Louisville was out there, and of course BYU. Kentucky and Louisville, yes, great programs, probably a lot of money, but it's not home, and BYU has a clear plug-and-play opportunity. But on the point of the legal aspect, because, again, the only reason he's able to play is because of a judge giving him a temporary restraining order. What if this doesn't work and it gets flipped and it gets appealed because the NCAA does not want these players to be able to play? What if it doesn't work out? This was Kohler on the KSL Sports Zone on that.
We always address the possibility of, what if this can't work? So far, the plan that I understand is that we would try to go to some NBA boot camps and just try to see if I can, get a two-way contract somewhere, or even in the G League. I'm okay with playing the G League and kind of working my way up, but at this point, we put a lot of cards on the college thing, but my agent has told me that, this can always change. And if it does, you have to have backup plans in play. So playing in the G League would be an option. Playing overseas is another option. I've looked into it a little bit. Not sure how I feel about it just yet, but yeah, I would try to, find a camp that can take me, that would invite me, and just try to work my way up, even if it means playing in the G League and trying to find a way to a two-way contract. That's what I would say with the plan.
Good news is that for now, he can play at BYU this upcoming season. Hopefully that's the case because he fits quite well with this BYU basketball roster. Let's talk about the next roster for the Cougars next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.